Coffee is the most consumed beverage in the world. The average American consumes coffee on a daily basis, and is a major contributor of caffeine in our body. But how does coffee affect our health? We use coffee as a stimulant to help us through the day, but what really is coffee? And how does consuming something so frequently be beneficial or detrimental for our health? A simple Google search can show you the composition of coffee. It mainly contains proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, tannins, caffeine, as well as antioxidants. But the funny story about coffee is that numerous studies have been conducted on this drink, and it showed that consuming coffee on a daily basis is actually beneficial in decreasing the risk of type 2 diabetes. In three large cohort studies that included about 1.6 million people, this was conducted by Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard School of Public Health, people who consumed 2 or more cups of coffee a day decreased their risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And people who decreased their coffee intake actually increased the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. But what is type 2 diabetes, and how many people does this affect? Type 2 diabetes affects about 17 million Americans, and many of those are undiagnosed. And this has been affecting people younger and younger in age in recent years. Type 2 diabetes is a failure to absorb the glucose in the blood. We depend on glucose to provide fuel to our brain and body. However, too much of anything is never a good thing. Overconsumption of glucose can lead to insulin-resistant cells. We depend on insulin to tell our bodies to absorb the glucose in the blood. So when the cells become insulin resistant, our cells do not absorb the glucose in the blood, and the body's solution is just to produce more insulin. This leads to overworking beta cells that produce the insulin and leads to their dysfunction. People with type 2 diabetes are unable to absorb the glucose in the body because of insulin-resistant cells as well as beta cell dysfunction. Long-term effects include blindness, strokes, increased blood pressure, and may lead to death. But does caffeine have anything to do with lowering the risk of type 2 diabetes? And the answer is no. A simple study on caffeine showed that consuming just caffeine would actually increase the blood sugar level in the body. And this is detrimental to people with type 2 diabetes. Caffeine by itself inhibits the insulin sensitivity, which tells the body to absorb the glucose in the blood. We're not exactly sure why, but they hypothesized that caffeine increases other hormones in the body that can prevent the cells from taking in glucose. And this can be said to be true about consuming coffee. It can only prevent type 2 diabetes. But people who already have type 2 diabetes will not receive the same benefit from drinking coffee and may actually experience the opposite. So what is in coffee that can actually help in decreasing the risk of type 2 diabetes? We believe that it is the antioxidants in coffee that is beneficial in this regard. Other drinks that also have antioxidants have not shown to have the same benefit. An example of this would be tea. But this also means that you do not need to drink caffeinated coffee in order to lower your risk of type 2 diabetes. It is recommended that in order to see this benefit, 4 to 5 cups of coffee is needed to be consumed in a day to receive this benefit. However, since you do not need to drink caffeinated coffee, you can drink it at the afternoon or at night, and if you enjoy the taste of coffee, even better. This is also only about pure coffee. Adding sugar, milk, cream does not provide the same benefit as just coffee. Drinks such as frappuccinos or lattes that have added sweeteners and loaded with unhealthy calories will not provide the same benefit. And while overconsumption of caffeine is not lethal, the recommended upper intake level is about 400 milligrams per day. Too much caffeine can lead to anxiety, headaches, and trouble sleeping. Caffeine is, after all, still a drug. And this is only a reference to adults. The American Association of Pediatricians recommend that kids between the age of 12 and 18 are only recommended to take about 100 milligrams of caffeine per day. This equals out to about 1 cup of coffee. But If you're an adult, the next time you drink an entire pot of coffee, don't feel so bad about it.